If I recall, Jacob is Leah's husband too. How you letting me have something that belonged to me? Because Jacob had Rachel had Jacob's heart. So she always knew with Rachel, Jacob would have went to her first. So Leah goes to Jacob and says, I paid for you with some of my son's mandrakes, and you come to me tonight. But I'm telling you, these chicks was at war. That's why I said this man probably wanted to rest like nobody's business. So they're back and forth.
So y'all trading husbands for some flowering berry plants? We ain't talking about money. We ain't even talking about cattle. Some berry plants?
Berry plants. They've given up the maid servants. Now they're going between the mandrakes. And so Leah has more children. She has her daughter. And, they go through this, and, I'm reading through this, and I literally read through this, and I'm thinking, I've read this story since I've been a girl, but I've never read this to this depth of this war. And I'm thinking, number one, Jacob wasn't ever a husband to you all. You all are just literally using this man. Yeah. You are Laban's daughters for real.
Yeah.
They got it from him. It started from him.
One of you are loving him. I honestly think Leah loved him. But she'd been in such competition with Rachel her whole life because she'd been hearing Rachel was the pretty one. Because Rachel was also her daddy.
But who was she hearing that from? You think Rachel was saying that, or her father was saying
that? Her father was saying it. Her daddy was saying it.
Right. And I'm so thankful our daddy.
It started with him.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was getting to. So Leah could never be who she truly was, or love the way she even probably wanted to, because in her heart, she'd been in competition. She'd been pitted against her sister her whole life.
I'm so glad our daddy never did that.
So sad to me, but here is Rachel realize, even though you're the pretty one, you can't bring nothing to the table. Your womb don't hardly work. So to a husband, especially in those days, you're not valuable. You gave this man 2 sons. You gave him 2 sons. If it was based upon what she could bring to the table, you didn't give him much. That's why you had to bring in your maid servant. So even though,
was Jacob asking for all that?
If you really read it, he wasn't.
No.
That's why I said they were using him. They would just be like, you come to my tent, you give me a son,
he was just like,
that's why I said,
what?
When I read it again, I'm thinking this man probably was like, these crazy women I didn't just read.
Because he didn't ask for Leah. He loved Rachel, and he had to have known her issues already.
I think he lusted after Rachel, and he got stuck with Leah.
Well, he got stuck, yeah. But yeah, that's what I get, the whole patriarchy thing of us fighting each other over a male. And like I said, it doesn't have to be romantic, because it seems like Leah had to fight for her father's acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Now this happens in church all the time, and because I go places and preach and stuff all the time, I see this with pastors' daughters, number one. And this happens when you're groomed a certain way, and you're number one groomed for ministry. And then being groomed for ministry, you have to marry a certain person. You have to marry a bishop. You have to marry a prophet. You have to marry a pastor. You have to. And it is not even so much this person necessarily has to love you. You all just have to look good on paper, and you have to look good in that pulpit. I have a lot of friends who are now years into some very unhappy marriages. Now, if you hear them preach or you see them standing in a pulpit, they look and sound incredible till you really hear them talk one-on-one. And then you hear some unhappiness. Number one, you hear a very controlling, domineering man, or a man who's totally checked out because he just wasn't never there, because he probably is more like Jacob. And you also have this situation where he kind of bought in, and so he wanted something from the good bishop or the good apostle, and he's trying to work his way up somewhere. So he never was so in love with this daughter anyway. He had a business plan of his own.
Yeah.
And then what becomes unfair too that I see with daughters and women in ministry is sometimes, I'm just gonna say it. Like
just gonna say
it. Not sometimes, a lot of times when you have that scenario, the daughter is far more qualified to preach and pastor that church than her husband is.
Yeah.
But God forbid that she be the pastor and not a woman be the pastor and not a man, because we still can't think that way. So if we think that this pastor, this bishop, this apostle would hand his church down to his daughter, that doesn't make sense. So she has to get married and then fall back behind some man who just came in, versus the daughter you've been grooming her whole life, who would follow in your footsteps and carry on this heritage. But what happens is when you have multiple daughters or multiple spiritual daughters, when we're talking about actual blood daughters here, sometimes then that becomes competitive, and now we're all fighting for daddy's love, daddy's acceptance. It's not even always daddy's love. It's just it literally becomes, does he see me? Does he see me? He couldn't see me because he's too busy looking for a man to do what I've been doing. And then on top of it, he doesn't see, and he's looking for a man to do what I've been doing. And then on top of it, you see all the other people in the church doing, and I've been here. So then you create very bitter, very, very bitter, hurting women. Mm-hmm. And then that brings us back to the issues of course, we've heard of our life, the stuff that people say about pastors' daughters being mean, being unkind, I'm not talking about the promiscuous stuff, I'm never entertaining that, but or feeling entitled. But can I tell you something? We are entitled, because we didn't ask for this. We were born into it, most of us. Or if our dads became pastors later on in life, it's still something we didn't ask for. It becomes a part of our birthright. We are entitled, we are chosen, this is who we are. And we shouldn't have to fight to be here. And really, our fight really isn't in the home. It really is the church. But the lines between church and home blur too much for a lot of families. So we don't always, and I say we because I feel like the PK Club is a club. The line between church and home become blurred for a lot of families, pastoral families. So you don't know where to place that frustration and aggression, and in some homes, people aren't allowed to talk to their parents. Angelique, we can't hear you. So I read this from a couple different viewpoints.
I'm not gonna speak for anybody else. I forgot to have I mute everything when I leave, when I step away. But I'm not gonna speak for anybody else, but I can definitely say at one point I felt, especially if you really talk to a lot of pastors' kids that are parents that are serious pastors, I never had an issue with God. I'm never gonna say I had an issue with God. But I definitely didn't want to be in church. Nothing to do with God. church. That's two different things.
Right.
And nothing to do with because both of our parents are pastors. So nothing to do with even what they were teaching. But is you go, I dealt with that, dealing with people judging me for things I didn't do, lying on me, judging me for things that I did do that weren't anything, and going through that. So it's, that's really, I can only ever say anybody can understand it is PK kids, period. Nobody else can really understand that outside of maybe like somebody that's in a kids of a major government figure or something.
That's the same thing I always say.
That's really the only people that can understand that. It's just like anything you do is looked at as, if you date, that's looked at weird. It's just like, was I not ever supposed to date? If they find out you ever drank, if you ever said a cuss word, if you do anything that any normal person does, it's major because you're the pastor's kids.
We're not normal.
You can't do that. That's you're if they ever find out you're not a virgin, you're a whore. Well, what? It's just like,
know your testimony.
Yeah, it's just like, it's so many things. This is like you don't. So is I never ever went through the thing where I just was like, I'm against God, ever, or I didn't believe in God. But I just was like, I did go through that point where I just was like, I don't, especially before we moved to where we are now in South Carolina. I just was, I was like, I'm good on church for a minute.
Right. I went through that with church too. And I want to say publicly, I don't have any issues with, obviously, doing the show, but I don't have any issues with my biological sisters, with Chantilly and Angelique. And my parents didn't allow for that. And they didn't let other people create issues between us either, because other people can create those things too. Very much so.
Yes.
Other people can create it. And, all of us, I've been married, Chantilly's married, all of us have been in relationships. We've not let the people that we've been in relationships with create it. And to be quite honest,
that's the line.
I've been, I've had to with my ex-husband. My sisters are off limits to you. My relationship with my sisters are off limits to you. That's not what's going to happen. So, people get jealous of our relationship, how close we are, all the time, and that's always mind blowing to me. Why is what's happening here? Why is that your issue or your concern? Either fix what's going on with you, join the party, or sit on the sideline. But don't be divisive, because you don't get to get it fixed here at all.
And I don't ever really talk, like, I think I might have said it to y'all, but it's just like, it was a guy I was talking to when I was maybe 19 or 20. Not the guy that all y'all know, but it's another guy I was talking to random. And that was the first time, I would say with him, was the first time I ever heard somebody say something that was so weird to me. The way he said, like, I've never heard something like that. Just how we were raised, I was saying something. I think he had said something. And I think I would say stuff like, I don't want to do that. My dad wouldn't, approve of that, or, not stuff to the extent of I can't make my own decisions. Just certain things like, I don't want to do that. I wouldn't move in with a guy because I don't. My thing was, I don't want to disappoint Dad outside of. Of course, I have my own mind. I have my own decisions. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. But certain things, I'm like, I don't want to disappoint him. How we were raised, that's different, So I was saying stuff, and he was just like, "You talk about your dad so much, you make me believe you're sleeping with your dad." And I just was like,
"Oh, I've heard that."
And that was the first time I ever heard that, and I just was like, because I respect my dad and don't want to go against certain things he raised me to be, that's what you're gonna go to? Yeah. So, that's a whole nother conversation we probably can get to. We can put a pin in for when we get to when they're on. But just, it's that's a whole nother conversation when you go into pastors' kids and that whole life. But we're on friendships, women's relationships. So continue what you were saying.
The last relationship. So, what I will say about the relationship between Leah and Rachel, which is sad to me and something that is the most common with women in ministry, truly is the spirit of jealousy and competition, which is just I think they're needing to be seen.
Yeah.
Who has the biggest title?
Yeah.
Who can preach the best?
Yep.
Who has the most important husband? Who's that's the thing,
my husband deacon, mine's the elder,
mine's apostle this, bishop this, the right reverend this, the master prophet this, and of course now women have the same titles, and we always have it. This is so popular now, and we destroy each other with that. So I've been in groups of women who's prophet is this, and bishop this, apostle this, doctor that, and master prophet, doctor, prophet is.
What is a master prophet? Like, when you start getting all that,
then I'm like, you got to hear stuff that's not even in the Bible, and none of it is edifying or building each other up. It's not, and it's not helping each other. It's just so destructive. And then and you see it, and the last thing I'll say is, when you look at the life of Leah and Rachel, their behaviors trickled down to their children.
Yeah.
Laban, Leah and Rachel were a product of Laban, but Leah and Rachel's behaviors trickled down to their children. And the proof of that is how Joseph's brothers treated him. They became jealous of him. They tried to literally kill him.
That just made me remember when I just recently watched Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
I have seen that one.
I just saw that, and they made it musically, but I was just like, oh my God.
They literally tried to kill him, but they tried to kill him based upon what? Because he was his mother's favorite. He was the favorite child.
He was the favorite.
It wasn't anything he did. He was Jacob's most loved. So, and it's those things that happen. That stuff happens with pastors' kids. Your kid is your child is the most important child in the church, so we want to destroy your child. So we as women have got to be better at not becoming competitive and jealous and destroying, hurting one another.
Yes.
And just
submitting
to the assignment and the call that's on our life and encouraging one another. The last relationship is Yodia and I'm probably saying this wrong, Syntyche, which is in Philippians 4. And it's a very short thing, but they were with Paul at the church of Philippi.
Okay.
Philippians 4, 2 through 4. And it just simply, as Paul really just saying to them, it says, now I appeal to Yodia and Syntyche, please, because you belong to the Lord, settle your disagreement. And I ask you, my true partner, to help these two women, for they worked hard with me in telling others the good news. They worked along with Clement and the rest of my co-workers whose names are written in the book of life. Always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. And so I looked at this because that's basically all that we know about these two women, is that it's important that we guard our hearts with all diligence because out of it flows the issues of life. We know that. But these two women clearly were women who were co-laborers. They worked alongside of the Apostle Paul. And in this church, and the church of Philippi was very important to him. But clearly what happened with these women was their issue of this, situation was division and strife. Clearly their disagreement, what happened with them, went beyond them.
Yeah.
And spilled into a church matter. And it clearly became a leadership matter because it got all the way back to Apostle Paul, to where he had to address it. And this isn't the email Zoom era where he could just call in on a laptop.
No, not Zoom.
This is a lot of writing and mailing has gone back. So it's a lot has had to travel for this to get back to him, for him to really feel like he had to address it. So these women, number one, meant something to him. They've done the work. And so clearly what was between them could have been damaging enough to affect the entire church, is why he was like, this needs to be handled.
Yeah.
And I did some studying up on this, and so he tells them in different translations, it tells them to be of the same mind, and he speaks of us being of the same mind in different scriptures. We know in 1 Corinthians, and when you're in ministry, and I think this specifically speaks to women who are ministers, to whom much is given, much is required. Listen. Yeah. Listen, Linda, listen.
Listen, Linda. You want to be looking at that video again, because I think it's hilarious.
That little boy was too much. You have to sometimes give up the right to be right.
Yeah.
And when we are feeling like, well, I am who I am, I need to tell you something, you're already so far out the pocket.
Yeah.
Me being licensed, me being ordained, me being whatever anybody calls me, doesn't change who I am to God, which is daughter. It doesn't change who I am supposed to be in my parents' church, and the rules that apply there, and how I'm supposed to function inside that church. And one of the things that my dad always tells to all the ministers and leaders is, you don't get the right to tell nobody off in his church. You don't get the right to be in nobody's face in his church. If there's a problem, you better take it where it's supposed to go. There's no getting nobody straight, because you know why? When I agreed to accept that ordination, when I agreed to be a leader here, I agreed to be a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I submitted to that.
You did. Yeah.
I took that on.
You did.
On top of me being a believer and the walk that I walk outside of New Covenant and outside of my leadership responsibilities. But when I became the leader that I am and the minister that I am, then that means that there are times when, guess what? I got to shut my mouth.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many times that's been.
Yeah, you have to know when it's time to be quiet and when it's time to speak, because we can get stuck in the shut your mouth mode too much.
Right.
And not speak when you need to speak, and we can get stuck in the speaking mode and speak too much.
Right. And there's a time to speak and know what to say, and there's a time to know how much to say.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
All night, and there's never such thing as, get this off my chest.
No.
Yeah, you are.
I know.
You can say that offended me. You can say that hurt me. You can say there was a misunderstanding. You can ask to sit down and speak with the pastors. Can we get this right between us? That, like Chantilly said, there's a time to speak. If there's too much tension especially between two leaders, we gotta get this right.
I know.
Because everybody,
in the presence
clearly,
of others.
if this got back to Paul, everybody could feel that.
Yeah, I know.
And then on top of it, people take sides, right?
Yeah.
So people is, I'm on her side, I'm on this side.
Yes.
And so
everybody
what
in
you
the
can't
flesh,
have with leaders is that you cannot have that with leadership.
I know one time, when you're talking about when to say, when to not say, when we still had a building, because we're not in a building right now because of C-19. But
Dimmy Dams.
Yeah.
We can't say that on Beyonce.
We can't say a lot of things. But we were having we were still, I'm not even gonna get into that, but we were having an Easter program. And we were trying to figure out how we were going to do the music, and when this transition happened, because we were having like a whole musical situation, and we're like, well, how do we do, how we're going to do the, when this person comes and our bishop, our dad said, I can see your toilet and your tissue in your bar, Chantilly, but and we were trying to figure out how we were going to do that in one of the rehearsals we had, because we didn't have rehearsals. We didn't say we're going to pop up Sunday morning and go with it. And so Bishop said, our dad said, oh, well, I'll come do the music. And I was like, no, because I don't talk about a lot, but I'm over the audiovisual department. So I was like, no, we cannot have you do that. And the thing was, when he said it, nobody said anything. Nobody said, oh no, we don't want our pastor or our bishop to run the sound during a play. Like, that's like, you don't think that's a problem? Maybe? So I had to be the one to say, no, that's not what we want to do right now. We don't want to, we don't want to, I personally said, I don't want to have the bishop be coming, running the sound and going back. No, I was like, no, that's not, I said, no. I said, and I told him, I said, no, don't worry about it. I said, we'll figure something out. Don't worry about it. Because no. And the fact that, and it goes back to what you were saying about pastors' kids. Pastors' kids are generally the ones that do and think like that. Because the fact that out of everybody in that room, I was the only one that said, no, our bishops shouldn't be the one to run the sound. And Bishop said, he was happy I said it. Our pastor, Bernadette, our mom was happy I said it. But nobody else, it was a couple people that were like, oh, but it's like, what we get attacked for is a lot of stuff. And people had issues with that, even me saying that. So that when we were saying that's what I was like, that's, again, it goes to another conversation we need to have, another thing, but that's when you were talking about that, that's what made me think about that. One of the times I had to say something and just basically whatever comes from it, take the hit and move on. But yeah.
Well, I've said all that I wanted to say. I'm ready if Chantilly's ready.
You ready, Chantilly?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm just gonna go through this real quick. Come on, camera time, boy.
Mm-hmm. Your camera's not on.
You cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
Oh, hold on. Hold on a second.
The host has asked you to start your video. Start my video.
Yeah. Hey. I think I might have did it because I was looking at your toilet and your tissue.
Okay. There's 3 things I want to talk about real quick when we talk about women and getting along, and for me, it's about in business. Okay. So for I want to talk about creating a networking strategy. So I think that creating a networking strategy is important, whether you have your own business, you have your own charity, or whether you have a business or not and you're a woman, you always need to have 2 things. You have to have a tribe of people who respect you, who get you, and you also need to have resources. You also need to have resources. So networking allows you to have your tribe and your resources. And so I want to talk about how to create a networking strategy, how to have your networking strategies, and also create your actions for getting out there and networking more. So when you want to first identify why you want to start networking more. Okay, so for everybody it might be different. And so how you'll know why you want to network more is by looking at your business goals, your business goals and strategies. And I'm not talking about tactics, I'm talking about strategies. What are your business goals? You know, if your business goal is to make more sales, golly, I keep burping. But if your business goal is to make more sales, then you kind of need to figure out how many sales you need to make, and then get out there and just meet more people that'll help you make those sales goals. But everyone has different goals concerning their business. So the reason that you'll get out there and want to network might be something different. It might be to expand your brand. It might be to position yourself as a leader in a certain topic. It might be to make more sales. It might be to introduce a new service or product. But you want to be focused on why you want to start networking more. You want to identify the people, how many people you need to network with. You know, so sometimes it might be one person, but if we're talking about sales and introducing a new product and expanding your brand, you need to know how many sales you want to make, how much you want to expand your brand, how many people do you want to be introduced to your new service or product. And you want to, that will tell you how many people do you need to get out there and network with. Because for each person you network with, they know one person, two people, three people that might be interested in your services and products, in your, in your brand. So you want to be aware of that. And also you want to know who you want to network with, Okay. So it's not enough to just say, I'm going to go out there and network with these people. You have to be strategic about it. So this is the whole strategy portion. You want to be strategic in, I need to meet these specific people to help me do what I need to do. And when I'm saying, it might sound like I'm being like selfish or being grimy or sleazy or, whatever. But when you're networking, you always want to have a 50-50 mindset. You always want to have a win-win situation mindset. You're not going out there to take away from people. You're going out there and saying, and being authentic, you're being real. I'm not saying be fake to get people to introduce you to their audience or their circle, so you and only you can benefit. You want to find people who you legitimately connect with, and because that's what's going to make the most authentic relationships. So so who do you want to talk to? It's going to be, if you're launching a new service or product, you want to network with people who are already in that field, people who can help introduce you to more people who would be interested in that service or product. You want to sit down and map it out, So that will be the strategy. And, and when we talk about the tactics, so some of the tactics we can do to network and build relationships with other women is look online and see how and try to join, like we always have online events. So
online events like what?
Online events that are in alignment with what your main goal is in your business. and your main goal for why you want to network right now. So you want to pick online events that are in alignment with that goal. So if my main goal right now is to is to have a Black Friday sale for, whatever service or product that I'm putting out, then let me see, maybe it could be jewelry. So maybe I have some more jewelry that I want to sell. I'm going to go out there and look for like internet online events that are related to jewelry making, jewelry selling, jewelry branding. I'm going to be all up in the jewelry world, and I'm going to connect with the other people who are in that event. And I'm not going to do it in a way that is where I'm looking for in a predatory way, or but I'm doing it in a way where this person could be helpful to my business, and I see where I can be helpful to theirs, or I want to make myself available to be helpful to theirs, not just because I want to sell, but because you really feel something, you really have a connection, and that's how one way how we build relationships. Another thing is to look for like networking events in your area. Like when we used to go to those networking events in Florence, like you want to look for networking events in your area, and you want to reach out to people who you really authentically connect with, and reach out for like win-win connections. That's another thing. Another way you can connect is online groups, and connect with people who are already, even if it's, you can interact with online groups in two different ways for me. It can be online groups that are in alignment with your business, and you can connect with and network with people in online groups that are in alignment with just who you are, not as a business person, but just as a person. Yeah. So it could be like maybe you like knitting, but that's not your business. Your business could be accounting, but you like knitting, and you can also network with people in your knitting group, So it's just all about building relationships and understanding that, just like we said before, if you understand that this world is built in a patriarchy is really important. Yeah. That we understand that we have to help each other. We have to help each other as women. We have to help each other as Black women, and we can't just do it emotionally. We have to be strategic, and we can do this with our businesses. And after we figure out what our networking strategy is, and after we figure out what our networking tactics are going to be, that's when we sit down and brainstorm and brain dump and figure out what our networking actions are going to be. Do we need to, in order for us to reach out and connect with more people, do we need to work on our communication skills? Do we need to work on our social anxiety? Do we need to on our, our things that we hand out, like cards and things like that? Do we need to work on our appearance? Because for women, a lot of the times, the reason why we don't network the way that we want to is because our hair isn't right, our clothes aren't right, our weight isn't right, our makeup isn't right, and we don't want to get out there just to be humiliated, or just to feel uncomfortable. So what is it that we need to work on? Do we need to work on our elevator pitch? Do we need to work on, have a stronger foundation of our brand? This is where the actions come into place. What is it that we need to work on to build relationships, not just situationships, with other brands and businesses? So that's basically what I wanted to say and what I wanted to bring out.
That's very good.
Yeah.
All right, Angelique.
My topic is what it has been like to grow up with having almost, it's no other way to say it, but having two best friends and friends already there by the time I came into the world. I have the benefit and the, to have people that I know, even if we don't get along, don't agree or whatever, they always want the best for me. And I don't have to worry about, finding friends in the world. And, I have people that I consider friends, but my two sisters, I know, well, okay, I grew up seeing, looking at their experiences and learning from what they, they've experienced and going from there. Because my oldest sister, Renee, is 7 years older than me. Then Chantilly is 2 to 3 years older than me. So, I see, okay, what are they doing? What are they experiencing? And then learn from that. And then I can always have conversations with them because both of them have been married or are married, have children. I can ask them questions and learn from things, and they have information and knowledge that I don't necessarily have right now. Even though I can see certain things from an outside perspective, I have that ability to be like, okay, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? What if I have a question on this? And I can just talk to them, and I'm not gonna say that having female friends that aren't related to you is bad, because I have female friends, but having sisters, people that grew up the same way I did, were raised in the same house that I was, learned the same things I did. We have a relationship and knowledge that's kind of like we kind of are coming from the same place and can understand the same things that somebody outside of that wouldn't understand. So they can understand what it was like growing up, not just as a pastor's kid, but growing up as a pastor's kid of this specific pastor's kid, this specific thing, this specific situation. We all had the same experience in general. So I can, have that. So we can rely on each other. We can be like, well, how did you feel? What did you experience? Oh, well, I know how that felt. Oh, I can understand how that happened. And then when it comes to other stuff outside of it, we won't judge each other on anything. We're not gonna be like, oh, well, you did this. Ooh, I'm gonna tell. Oh, you did that. It's just like we all just accept each other for each other, and faults and all. It's just like we're just friends in the most, to me, the most natural way that I like. So I've had the experience of having friends that weren't, that were outside of it and don't understand. And I'm not going to say they weren't good friends, because they were, but it's just a lack of understanding on certain things, and certain things I know I couldn't open up to them with. But I definitely wouldn't say, I definitely wouldn't attack them. I definitely wouldn't compete with them. It's just, I know I have levels of friendship. I have different levels of friendship with different, I'll specifically speak about my female friends, because that's what we're talking about right now. I know this friendship they might not understand what it's like growing up in ministry. They might not understand what it's growing up having to have people, I can say one situation when I was working at the same place Renee and I worked at, I was listening to, because the job I did, I didn't have to be on the phone. So I was listening to Alicia Keys one of Alicia Keys' albums on my MP3 player. And the guy walked by, and he was a pastor, and he was like, "You listen to Alicia Keys?" oh, I'm gonna tell your parents. And I'm just like, tell them what? What are you gonna tell them? I'm listening to Alicia Keys? Like, it's just like, and I, one person kind of heard, and they just was like, they didn't get why that was a big deal. But I know if I told my sisters that, they would be like, oh yeah, I understand. Somebody, they get why that was just weird and not necessary and whatever, because it was just like, why do you need to make a big deal about music I'm listening to that's not gospel? But it's just like, I know, it's just, the sad part is people, I think a lot of women, if a lot of females would understand that maybe all of your friends aren't at the same level of understanding, friendship, closeness, whatever, it would be a lot better.
Yeah.
I have friends that I could just talk to them about nothing stuff, and I'm fine with that. And then I have friends that I know I want to talk to about deeper things that are, more emotional, more serious, that, whatever. But I think so many people want everybody to be best friends that it starts becoming an issue of that. And everybody don't need to be your best friend. And I know Renee talked about it earlier. Really learn what friendship, best friend, all that really means. You don't even want everybody to be your best friend. Like, you don't even want that. When you start getting the covenants and learning about all that, it's just, you don't want that at all. So it's, I'm appreciative of having two people that I grew up with that I know I can go to and be like, hey, this is what's going on. I can talk to you about this. I've seen what you're going through. You understand. I'm still dating. I can, y'all can tell, if I tell you, oh, this seems odd with this relationship, y'all can be like, you might want to be aware of this because I went through this. This would happen with that. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm pretty aware,
Right.
Or I'm going through this with another female friend. This was happening. Oh, well, I went through that. You might want to be concerned. You might be aware this was happening. Just be aware. It's just, I can have people, and I know they only want what's best for me. Even if we disagree, not even if, when. We're all three grown people. We're going to disagree.
With very different personalities.
Yeah, we're going to disagree. We're just going to. But we're not ever going to attack each other or want less for each other because we just know we all want that. So coming from my stance, at one point I grew up, I would say teens, this is my best friend. This is my best friend. And then, the older I got out, just was like, I don't even want a bunch of group of friends. I'm good. Like, I don't even want it. I didn't even want it anymore. Like, I don't want a bunch of people that's my best friends and this friend. My best friends is who my best friends are. My friends, my friend group shrunk and shrunk and shrunk to the age I am now. Who are your friends? My sisters. It is what it is. Like, it is what it is. Like, I have other friends, obviously. But I'm like, it's just, the older I got, I realized for me personally, I wanted people who wanted the best for me, who I could talk to about anything, who had experiences that I could relate to and they could relate to me and I could understand things, and that's what I went with. But when you start going to outside of that, you really have to, when we were talking about competing and can't get along, why are you so worried about any female? I've experienced that. The other side, like the women competing and have issues with me, and I'm just like, why are you having problems with me? I didn't do anything to you. I'm just, I'm there for you, but it's something you perceived I did that now it's a problem. So, it's just really, I think if women, if to boil it down to the basics and its deeper things, women get out of each other's way and just be you. Whatever you are, be you. If you loud, if you quiet, if you whatever, just be you. No, stop competing to be whatever. And I think a lot of the issues started getting worse and worse when we started getting to social media. And I'm not one of the people that just like, get away from social media. I'm not one of those people because I'm on social media. But like when you're competing with, I want to look like Kim Kardashian. No, first of all, nobody can afford it. So no, you don't. And then you're trying to always look like this woman and this woman and this one, like, so then that makes another competition of other women, and it's so much. It's just like, in a lot of ways, I think social media started becoming an issue of women looking at issues that they already had, but amplifying those issues to make them worse. And so where they're just looking at it and just everything about them seems wrong because this says it's wrong. If you're too big, this is wrong. If you're too small, this is wrong. If you're too dark, it's wrong. If you're light, it's wrong. If your lips are too big, if your lips too small, your nose too big, your nose too small, it's just like, and so those things then started, now you're competing with other women who, it's just so many things. And it's just, I think of a lot of women just learn to accept whatever they are. And then to fix if you want to fix something, fix it because you want to fix it. Like, mom and I were talking the other night and she asked me, because I have my dad's teeth. And I was like, she asked me, did I want to, fix my gap and stuff. And I was like, I've thought about it, but not really. Because, I don't want to go through the retainer and all the other stuff. I said, I like my teeth. But I know there's plenty of other women that would be like, oh, my teeth it's too many gaps. It's this and that. I want to fix it. I need to fix it because it doesn't look good. To who? It looks good to me. So it's just, I think if a lot of women would just start accepting who they are completely. And then if you see something in yourself you want to fix it because you want to fix it. Not because you want to look like another woman or compete with what outside world thinks it looks good, then I think you'd be better off. And a lot of the competition would lessen because a lot of it is just outside influences, from my standpoint. I'm not going to say what everybody does, but from my standpoint, I think if a lot of people would just really work on self-acceptance, and if you want to get plastic surgery, oral surgery, whatever, do it, but do it because you're like, I want to do that for me. But get away from that whole looking like what you see. And it will help a lot of women get away from that competition, is what my mindset is at the age I currently am, that I'm not going to say. At my age of 25.
Okay. I've said my child is 25, right?
Oh, we're both the same age.
Okay. All right. This is where we wrap the show up because
we're gonna wrap it up.
It's your bedtime.
I know. Night.
We've had a good show tonight. Very good. Great conversation. I was waiting for Chantilly. But I think that we've covered great topics. I enjoyed, Chantilly, what you shared, the tips for really.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm hungry.
Are we gonna give him a little Not a whole detail, but like what we might be talking about next week.
Oh, I'll mention it in a minute. So the tips for networking and business. I know all three of us are entrepreneurs, and Chantilly and I definitely are entrepreneurs and have been in business for years. I think Chantilly does it even better than me.
Chantilly's great at marketing
and been incredible at it. I learn from her all the time.
We have different strengths. I'm not better.
I knew she was gonna do that. She just like
Shawty did my press release for my model page.
She's great with that type
and
of stuff.
And that's what I'm like, we all have different strengths that even when we did the show, we was like, what are we good at? Like, I just knew Shawnee's good at the marketing side. That's just not my wheelhouse.
Right. And so it's just been great to when we were trying to figure out how to do this today, I just kind of knew how the chips would fall and where we all fit. And I knew Chantilly just giving advice for women in business was her strength. I enjoyed hearing Angelique talk about her viewpoint, growing up with built-in friends.
Yeah, that's what
everybody doesn't get that.
No, I had to build.
But I think that it's cool. I do think that it's great. We grew up. You've heard us talk about growing up traveling with our dad for 13 years, and then continuing on with him in ministry for the last close to 30 years. Start telling our age. But I wouldn't say 20 plus. You just add how many plus.
There you go, 20 plus.
But,
there you go. That's how you do it, 20 plus.
But growing up around so many pastors' kids, whether it was traveling and then now being pastors' kids, all pastors' children don't get along and aren't friends.
No.
And that was one thing that I saw growing up, which was disheartening to me, was unfortunately, like I said earlier, number one, the church puts an enmity between pastors' families. It puts a pressure and a weight that sometimes you don't even know is coming. It comes like a freight truck.
Yep.
We weren't born into it. We came into it later. So I know I can tell you it hits hard, it hits fast.
Yes.
It hits like a Mack truck. It's gonna hit you. And it's just you wake up with one life one day and another life the next day. And there's no turning back. I've often said if I could write a book for pastors' kids, it would be, can somebody get me out this glass house or at least tint the windows? You live in this ridiculously, I'll be a beautiful glass house, but it's like Angelique said, everything that you say is scrutinized, everything that you wear is scrutinized. I can't tell how many people in the world, I model, I do public speaking, I do motivational speaking, love this purple hair, but the people inside the church had so many problems with it, and I couldn't figure out what the difference between inside the four walls of the church and the outside of the four walls of the church. I had people literally ask if I had backslidden, if I was still saved, if my dad was still letting me preach in his pulpit over the color of, y'all know this isn't my hair. So, over somebody else's hair at the end of the day. How I dress, I used to be over 450 pounds. I lost 200 pounds. You lose weight, how you dress changes. So, it was, her dresses are too tight, too short, too revealing, blah, blah, blah. I'm not interested in that. I wear stilettos most of the time. Her heels are too high. Yeah. She wears too much makeup. I don't like the fact that she wears eyelashes. That's simple. That's worldly.
It's everything.
Normally my nails are done. My nails are too long. It's like a grocery list, but it becomes, none of this stuff happened when we were traveling. Every bit of it happened the moment my parents said we're pastors. And we won't get into, dating. And so
don't even get into that.
Everybody needs to know who you're dating and what you and where you're going And the thing about it is everybody has an idea of who you're supposed to be dating.
Yeah, not to mention people that think you shouldn't even be dating.
You're supposed to be, period.
Right, who they think you're supposed to be, and none of it is correct. And then who you should be dating, who you should be married to. You know, everybody thinks I'm supposed to be married to. And my parents know this. I tell them, my mom this all the time. I'm absolutely supposed to be married to a bishop, an apostle, a prophet. The top three of the five of the fivefold ministries, and past. I've done
so many things.
I've done two of. I've done pastor. I've done prophet. I'm so good with that. I just want to be married to somebody who loves me and loves God, and I feel like they don't need a title. I'm accountable for my title, for my calling.
Yes.
And you know, I think if God brings two people together with powerhouse callings together, then so be it. I just know that's not where I desire to be. So at this point, Leah's super happy. You know, but as we wrap it up, you know, I think the biggest thing when you have sisters like the three of us, we're very different, but we understand how we're super different. Like
Pestbird, our mother said, what about the ones offended you don't date their sons?
Oh, I've been pimped out to so many sons since I was probably 16. I mean, so mothers and grandmothers have wanted me with their precious little lambs.
Yes.
And wolves. Mostly wolves. I can always tell it when it's coming, and it still happens now in my 40s, because these men show up at church. I'm like, this brother ain't been to church all this time, but now on, you know,
exactly,
special Fruit Loop Day, he need to come.
Really?
So, you know, and it never ceases to amaze me. And I can't think of nobody's bloodline I particularly want to mix with on most occasions. And that's really how you have to look at it. Do I want to mix into your entire family? Most of the time, that is a hard no. So, you know, you just, but I think what I was ready to say is, we know how each other thinks, and because we grew up the same, we know why we are the way that we are. And so I think that's what makes the beauty of us being the Elijah sisters. So we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for
20 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I said we're going to wrap it up. We do have the Sabbath services for us in the morning, and I don't want to say that we was doing the podcast. That won't fly with the good bishop in the morning.
No.
So it's been wonderful talking to my sisters and talking with you all. Next week's show is a special review show. We're going to watch a couple of movies, and so we're going to review the movie. We're doing 2 movies next week, right?
Yes, Hunk and Marvin.
Yeah, we're reviewing the Marvin Sapp movie. I get to watch that this weekend.
Me too.
And Hunk for Jesus Save Your Soul. Oh my God, that movie is so fun. I watched that for like the 6th time.
Oh my God.
The Marvin Sapp movie, I'm looking forward to watching. I've danced to that song. Never would have made it so many times. Actually, recently ministered that song. So we'll be reviewing those and getting, you know, your opinions. We definitely want the lines open. Chat with us. Watch them before next Friday and give your views if you haven't watched them already. And we'll talk to you soon. So it's been a little bit longer than usual show, but sometimes good conversation just goes and goes. It reminds me of when we were little and my dad's mom's porch, our mudia, when conversation would just go into the midnight hours and the crickets would cricket. Oh my God, I have mudia's laugh. I'm done. That's a wrap. So I heard every bit of Maddie Mae right then.
Yeah, Maddie was there.
But it's been great with you all. So for tonight, thank you for letting our family be your family, and we will see you next Friday.
See y'all later.